We have Sarah Brennan on this morning. She's the helicopter agent. We're going to find out what that means. I have the presentation live on the screen. Jennifer, I wasn't sure if you wanted to do a quick intro too for Sarah.
Absolutely. So, Sarah was actually someone that was mentioned to me by the helicopter pilot in a bar in New Brunswick. And he's like, I fly this woman around, this agent. She's unbelievable. You have to meet her. This was so I brought her on the podcast. But Sarah hasn't been in the business really that long, and what she's built is freaking mind-blowing. And I love the fact, Sarah, that you have that abundance mindset. And I know you're going to touch into that story about Campobello with like, hey, do you want to do this? And other agents turning it down and kind of like your vision on it, which was absolutely amazing. So yeah, take it away, girl.
Okay, so I'm Sarah Brennan, as Jennifer has shared. I'm 37 years old. I have 3 kids, and I got my real estate license in 2020 at the end of the year when everybody else was getting their real estate license because the market was so good. But I knew at the time that it wasn't going to be good forever, and that if I wanted to stand out amongst all these other new agents, that I had to be different and do something different. So marketing was really the answer. That's how I seen it, that marketing was the answer. So I had gone to a meeting at the brokerage I was with at the time, and they had actually suggested that everybody on the call follow this one EXP agent. So I should say I'm in a small town of Sussex in New Brunswick on the East Coast. So most people don't even know that we're a province or where we are on the map. So there is an EXP agent here in the province that has done phenomenal things with marketing. And so they had mentioned that we should follow this lady. So I did. And what I noticed right away was that marketing was a priority to her. Videos were a priority, and being seen every day on social media was very important, and her business was booming. So I took that and then I made it my own, because obviously you don't want to copy somebody else, but you want to stand out. You have to be yourself. You have to be authentic. That is huge in the marketing part of things. So that's where I started. I also knew that hiring somebody to do marketing for me that could help me so that I wasn't spending all my time doing that, over hiring an admin at that time. I've learned though from Jen since that I need both. That was really going to build my business quickly. So that's what I did. I didn't have a huge budget. I hired someone hourly, and then I really took what could they do to help me that I could be utilizing my time better. So videos, I knew that doing videos for listings, nobody in my area was doing that at all. So that was a huge opportunity. I started following other real estate agents in the United States. And a really good friend of mine said, don't follow people local to you. And she's not a realtor. Follow people in other provinces, follow people in the United States, in Europe, and do what they're doing, because nobody's doing that here. So that's how I got started with marketing. I think that the amount of marketing we've done, and since then I've hired Genevieve, she's over there taking pictures of me on full time, and she works just for me. So we have an in-house marketing team, which is really great when you're going to a listing presentation to be able to say that you have that. People do see the value in it. So that's kind of who I am and how I got started. From the start, I guess, but utilizing social media. So you need to be on social media every single day. You need to share. And I hate it. Honestly, if I wasn't a realtor, I wouldn't do it. You have to share your personal life. Like every day I'm posting like 2 to 3 at least stories. I try to post on my personal page outside of real estate. So not just like tips and tricks on how to sell your home, but personal, because building relationships with people and people knowing who you are that's the trick. So I got this $5 million listing over on Campobello Island. And how did I get there? So we'll go back to how I started on Campobello Island. my first client, Keith is his name, he reached out to me and he wanted me to list some property for him on the island, but he wanted to know how I was going to service Campobello because it's a 3-hour drive each way from where I live and be able to get there in a timely fashion and actually service these listings. So Trevor is local. I've known Trevor for a long time. He has a helicopter, so I reached out and asked him if he would fly me back and forth to Campobello. And so that's where the helicopter started. So I was thinking outside the box, I guess would be the answer to that, right? I was trying to figure out a way that I could get started on the island. He had reached out to many other agents prior to this who couldn't give him an answer on how they were going to service it. That has grown and grown. So now I have a couple of residential listings, 14 land listings, and I got my first $5 million listing on the island, which is super exciting. And I had a call with him yesterday and I told him that I was going to be on here speaking to you all today. And I said to him, they're going to want to know how I got this listing. So I want to tell you what I think, and then you tell me if I'm right. And I was right. It was a relationship based thing. That's how I got the listing. Even though it was listed with another agent, I had met Barry a couple of times. He's a friend of Keith's. We had gone there for supper. We had no conversation about listing his property. I just went there to meet him because he was part of the Fun Day Drive Club. And then when I did the video for Campobello Island to try to promote the island and bring more buyers, because now I have the majority of the listings in that area, how did he want me to incorporate himself or his thoughts about Campobello? Like, I reached out to him. I stayed in contact with him as a friend, not trying to get his business. And when his contract expired, he reached out to me and asked me to list the property. But it was because I built a relationship with him and he's seen me on social media all the time. So he remembered who I was, even when I wasn't calling him every month or every 2 months. It had nothing to do with the helicopter, even though I like to think it did because it's super cool. But being able to get there and show the property quickly does help. But it was because it was relationship based and marketing based. So marketing in the community would be the other big aspect to building my business and how I got to be the top 5 agent for the province in my age group. So I do a lot of local events. I think it's really important. Again, it's a relationship based thing. I'm just not a transactional based realtor, and I know everybody does things differently. But for me, being viral in the community is even more important than being viral online, because once they know who I am, then they follow me online and then I stay at top of mind. So when they want to buy or sell something, they're like, oh, we should call Sarah. So we do a Santa photo event. In these photos you can see that's really, really big for us this year. It was so big we had to tell people they couldn't come, which was kind of sad. In the past, we worked for a different brokerage. They had a hot air balloon, so we did a hot air balloon event with free tethered rides. But just, Jen, we have solved that problem. We have a balloon for this year.
Wow.
So that's good because people love that, right? So we do give back to the community, and we try to be involved in everything and just, supporting the people around you. And yeah, and I've touched on the helicopter. So in the future, I guess, how are we going to continue to market? So we are going to start using AI more. You've seen my stories yesterday. We had to go do a photo shoot and I wasn't excited about it. But it was because we use those stock photos to be on social media every day. So using AI can definitely save time there. So we are going to start utilizing AI more. But we're going to continue doing what we're doing. We're going to continue doing more events in the community. We would like to get Trevor involved somehow this summer for an event. We think that would be really cool. Yeah, and then building relationships. That is the absolute most important. But marketing is the number one reason that I got to where I'm at, I guess.
100%.
Mm-hmm. Does anybody have any questions or
Well,
anything
why
else?
don't we talk about, because I think it's interesting, like you built so quickly. Like you came into this and you took off. So
Mhm.
was it the personal relationships you had? Was it like referrals? And how much of your business now is repeat referral versus, just lead generation, like actually getting out and knocking doors or making phone calls?
So I don't door knock. That's
Mm,
just not for me. I prefer to use social media to build my business. So I
okay.
do not door knock. I know it works for other people, but for me, that's not how it just doesn't work. I'm not comfortable doing it, so it's not going to work, right?
Yeah.
But how I got started. So what I did when I first got my license, I ordered 5,000 business cards. And I sat down for 2 days and I wrote on a sticky note, call me about your house on 5,000 sticky notes. And I stuck them to the
Wow.
business cards. I live in a rural area. Most people have a mailbox. So I drove around for probably 2 months. I had to have somebody drive me because I had to be able to put these into mailboxes. And I put these business cards in 5,000 mailboxes. And then I hired a local student to go around and do the same thing in town. So they took them and walked around town and put one on every house in Sussex. That was the very first thing I did. I got a lot of calls from it. I got calls from angry people, but I kept telling myself that every no and every upset person was going to lead to a yes. And it did. I have I think I had 3 or 4, maybe 5 listings. It took a year to get there, but when someone called and they actually were interested and they did ask me questions, I kept their name, their phone number, their address, and then I called them back every 30 to 60 days and they turned into leads and they were listings. And then once I started to get listings, people started to know who I was and see my name because it's a small community. And then it built from there. And then those clients that I got from that referred me to other friends and family. So right now, I would say that probably 60% of my business is referral based. I've either worked with somebody who's referred me. They maybe are just somebody I know from the community that says, hey, you should hire Sarah. She does a really great job. And I've never worked for them. They know who I am from following me. So that was the biggest thing I did to get started. And then I hired that marketing. I hired somebody to do marketing. So he worked 3 to 5 hours a week. It wasn't a lot, but he created me mail outs. So once I had a budget and it wasn't very big at the time, that's why I drove around and did the cards. But I did 2 mail outs that year, one in the spring of 2021 and one in the fall of 2021. So I had him design that. I had him design an ad that runs, and we have one right now running. So it comes up on Facebook. It's a paid ad, and it shows up on everybody's Facebook page that's within that postal code area. That works really well too, because then you're always there. Even if they're not on your social media page, they're still getting that ad on their page because you're paying for it to be there.
And
And
can I just ask what your budget is on that, Sarah?
that's a G question. Is it like $20 a day? Right now, we're paying $20 a day. Back then, I ran it through the brokerage that I worked for, and they had a special rate. So I think I paid like $100 a month or something like that.
Yeah,
And that worked pretty well. But yeah, now we're running it in a wider area as well.
amazing.
Mhm.
And what is the ad itself? Like, is it just kind of, you know, interested in selling your home, or what specifically do you have in that ad?
So we've learned that the simpler, the better. The more information you put in, people are going to scroll by because they've lost their attention span really quick. So it's a picture of me. It says, are you buying, selling, or investing? And then it says Sarah Brennan, EXP Realtor, and my phone number and my email, I think is on there. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're doing that. And then how are you following up with those leads once they come in?
So they come into our inbox and we can respond to them that way. And then if they are interested, and so I've picked up a buyer from it in the last 30 days. I've set him
Amazing.
up on, so I do set them up on a market watch, so realtor.ca, and then I put them into the CRM, which I have the new assistant working on the CRM because it definitely needs help. That's one thing I'm not good at, but the market watch through realtor.ca, that works really well because they get an email and I have it set up so I get an email the second that something comes up they might be interested in. Then I pick up and I call them and I say, hey, did you see that new listing that came up? Do you want to go look at it? So automatically put them into the CRM, automatically set them up, and reach out to them right away once the lead comes in.
Yeah, it's so good. And you
Yeah.
had like through this experience, you actually, thankfully, were not in the helicopter when it crashed. So, did you
Yeah.
have those pictures, SG? Did you find them?
No, I'm
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
looking for them.
They're on social on
I
our
know
Instagram.
I'm like searching like crazy. I just cannot find them.
I'll send them. So, yeah, anybody have any questions for Sarah? I think
I have a
to
question. I
understand
wrote
that.
it in this in the chat. I wrote the
Oh,
question.
okay. All right. Do you want
So
to?
Sarah, you mentioned that at the beginning with a low budget, you hired somebody part-time to do the marketing for you, right? Because you were not good
I
at that. May I ask you how
I did.
much approximately you were paying? Like how many hours that you needed in a week to be like every day or every second day on the media?
So he was new to marketing as well. Like he had worked for one other person prior to me, so his rates were cheaper. I'm also in New Brunswick, so you got to factor that in too. But I was paying him $15 an hour, I think, at the time, and he would work 5 hours a week, sometimes 10 hours a week, depending on what I needed. When I got him, so that was to do mail outs, make ads for me to put up on social media. I still ran my own social media account then because I didn't want to pay his hours to do that. At one point, I paid him an additional amount of money. I paid him like $1,500 to $2,000 to build me a website because I wanted to expand and have a website. So that was extra over the top. But you can hire like a virtual assistant or somebody who just wants to do hourly marketing. You don't have to have a full time. I like having G full time because she follows me around, but I had to get here, right?
But yeah, that helicopter crash, how did it influence your kind of surrounding or the people who follow you? How did it
Yeah.
work?
So I wasn't in the helicopter when it crashed, but I was in Newfoundland visiting a friend, and Trevor was in Newfoundland moose hunting. So everybody thought I was in the helicopter. So my phone was actually blowing up. Like, are you okay? Were you in the helicopter? Is everybody okay? And I'm like, I didn't even know the helicopter crashed. So I called Trevor, he sent me the pictures. But yeah, everybody found out locally really quick that had happened. Since then, he's bought another helicopter, but because of the crash, has to do a few hours before we're allowed to fly. So it's not lucky that it crashed. Don't take me wrong when I say this, but luckily it happened in November if it had to happen, because my busy season on the island is April to September, October. So by the time that the busy season picks up again, we'll be back and good to go. But yeah, had it happened in the middle of summer, it would have been a bit more of an issue because we would have found somebody else. But Trevor's, we have been working with him for a long time, and he's the one who referred me to Jennifer. So yeah, it didn't affect a lot just because of the time of year. But had it happened in the summer, it would have been different.
So you have lots of business on the island, right? So that means like you got lots of sales there.
Yes. So I have tons of business on the island. I have more listings than I've had sales yet. It's a hard sell. Trying to get people to understand that Campobello Island is outside the census area. So Americans can buy on the island. And the majority of my sellers and the buyers that I've worked with are Americans because it's easier to access this island. There's a bridge for customs that crosses from Lubec, Maine into Campobello. Campobello is obviously a Canadian, it's part of New Brunswick. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to work there. But in order for me to get there, I either have to fly, take 2 ferries, or drive through the states, which is 3 hours, and I have to clear customs twice. So
Wild.
it's harder to get buyers because I have to tap into the American market, which is what we're working on right now. That's our new focus, is to try to align with American agents that understand that their clients can buy there and that it's cheaper for them to buy there.
Hard.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. That's so
Yeah.
crazy. Like just trying to get there. So it's like so convenient that you have a helicopter pilot that can just chopper you around. That's amazing.
Well,
So
without him, it would be almost impossible. Like
yeah.
Keith had a point, right? When he said, how are you going to service this with a 3-hour drive each way?
If you were to take the ferries, because you said it would be 2 ferry rides, how long would that take you?
It takes about 3.5 hours if you time it perfectly. So it's faster to drive
Wow.
around because if you miss one ferry, you lose an hour.
Sure.
So,
That's
yeah.
crazy. Oh my goodness.
Hmm.
What an interesting market and how to maneuver it. So interesting. Does anyone have any other questions? Anna, go ahead.
Yes, how is the market there in New Brunswick in comparison to Ontario?
Yeah. So from what I've heard, Ontario is fairly slow. I actually have my own personal house on the market right now. And I have a buyer from Ontario that wants to purchase it, but we're waiting for them to sell. So it's busier here than it is there. Again, though, it depends on the price point. Like if you're under 350 here in my area, those properties are selling quickly still. Anything over 500 seems to sit on the market. It can sit. The last one we had sat for a year on the market. It was listed at $899. It's closing next month, but we had it for a year before we were able to move that one. So it really depends. Commercial here is still super busy, so we're trying to focus on that as well. Just you can't in, in my town or my area here, you can't be just a residential realtor. You really have to do all the things.
One more question before I let you go. Sorry. When you mentioned that you were following the American agents, what did you find different in there in America that they're not doing here in Canada? What did you like pull out from that follow-up?
Following their social media, you mean? Yeah. So the reason I follow them is because they are doing. So I started a TikTok channel. A lot of them had TikTok channels. I don't know if that's. I can't give you any data on that yet because we've just started with it. A lot of them are using YouTube, but their content that they're creating is different than what anybody else. So I was the first one to start doing listing videos here in town and where I'm located. Now other agents are starting to do it. They're seeing that it works and that it draws more people. So now more people are starting to do that. So then now what do we have to do? Now we have to see what other agents are doing and think outside the box. So we're actually, when we're done here, we're going to do a listing video. And this time, so we followed a few agents in the States. We're not going to talk in this one. It's going to be a dancing video, actually, which seems really silly. But those ones tend to catch attention more than talking. I think the talking, like welcome to 536 Swartz Creek, is kind of overdone. Everybody's doing that. And so now you have to kind of look around and see what people are doing and be different.
Love that. And that's a good visual hook too, right? So you don't just hook people with words, you have to have a visual hook, do something interesting to kind of hook them into the and want to see more of the house. Adrian, you have a question? You have your hand up?
Morning, Sarah. Thank you for this. Since they have a bridge from Maine going directly to the island, do you find that there's a lot of American agents that are getting their license over there? Because
They
sorry, go ahead.
they can't. So
Oh,
Americans, they're not, unless they're a dual citizen, they're not allowed to work in Canada because of the labor laws and things like that. They can refer us clients, and we are allowed to pay them a referral fee. But they're not actually allowed to work in Campbell, which has been a bit of a challenge as well, because they feel like, why wouldn't I just keep the client here in Lubec and sell them something versus send them to you? I can make more commission. So we figured out the solution to that with the $5 million listing. If an American agent or any agent out of New Brunswick that doesn't have a license to do the deal can send us a buyer lead, we're going to give them a 2% referral fee. So 2% of the full commission, not 2% of, so 2% of 5.5 million if they send us a referral.
yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions before we run away?
Dance away into our new listing.
Right? It's one way to
Yeah.
do it. I love that so much. Well, Sarah, we really appreciate your time this morning and sharing your story. And I think some tips and tricks are are always appreciated. So everyone is going to walk away with some inspiration today. So we really appreciate you hopping on to our call this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. And if anybody has a question, you can find me on social media, reach out, and I'm happy to help.
Amazing. Everyone, have an incredible day. Make amazing things happen. And then we'll see you all back next week. Have a good day.